This story is titled, My Wife Wanted an Open Marriage, but I Gave Her a Taste of Reality That Ended Our Relationship. All right, so here's the deal. I'm Ryan, 32 male, and I've been married to my now ex-wife, Emily, 30 female, for 6 years. On paper, we were the perfect couple. I'm a senior project manager at a top firm, pulling in 6 figures, working insane hours to give Emily the lifestyle she's always wanted. But let me be clear about something. Emily's influencer career? That didn't just happen. I made it happen. When we first got married, she didn't know what she wanted to do with her life. All she did was shop with my money, bouncing from one hobby to the next. Given my social status, I've always believed that a successful man deserves a partner who is equally accomplished. I didn't want her to just sit at home shopping or scrolling aimlessly on her phone. I wanted her to have something meaningful. That's when I started encouraging her to find her purpose. Social media seemed to click for her, and I threw everything I had into helping her succeed. I invested in her brand, bought her the best camera equipment, paid for classes on photography and video editing, even covered the cost of her first marketing campaigns to grow her audience. Every time she needed a new outfit for a photo shoot or tickets to some exclusive event, I made it happen. I worked extra hours, sacrificed vacations, and lived with constant stress so she could build this dream. And it worked. Her follower count skyrocketed, brands started reaching out, and she was finally doing something she loved. Or at least, that's what I thought. The crack started showing about 2 months ago. At first, it was little things. Emily started pulling away, emotionally and physically. She'd be glued to her phone during dinner, laughing at memes or texting someone constantly. She stopped posting pictures with me on her social media. In fact, she went so far as to archive all the photos that showed we were married. It's better for the brand, she'd say when I asked about it. It stung, but I figured she knew her business, and I wanted to be the supporting husband. I noticed other changes too. She started dressing differently, edgier, like she was trying to appeal to a younger, single audience. She was going to more influencer events, ones that ran late into the night, and always insisted they were just for networking. I'd wake up at 2 a.m. to find the bed empty and hear her creeping back into the house, claiming it was just work stuff. I didn't want to come off as insecure or controlling, so I let it slide, convincing myself I was imagining things. Then one night, she sat me down in the living room. She looked nervous, chewing her lip, her phone face down on the table. A rare sight. "We need to talk," she said, avoiding eye contact. I've had enough experience with bad news to know nothing good comes from that phrase. "What's going on?" I asked, already bracing myself. She took a deep breath and said, "I've been thinking a lot about us, and I think we should try an open marriage." I just stared at her, trying to process what she was saying. It was like my brain short-circuited. "An open marriage?" I repeated, making sure I heard her right. She nodded quickly, like she'd rehearsed this. "It could be good for us. Think about it. We're both so busy. You with work, me with my brand. This way, we can explore and still stay together. It could make us stronger." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Explore?" I said, my voice sharp. "Are you serious right now, Emily? We've been married for 6 years. I've been killing myself working to give you the life you want, and now you're telling me you want to sleep with other people?" Her face fell, like she didn't expect me to react that way. "It's not just about that," she said quickly. "It's about freedom and connection. It's not that I don't love you." "Stop," I interrupted. "Just stop. Do you even hear yourself? How is this supposed to make us stronger? You're basically saying I'm not enough for you." "That's not what I mean," she said, tears welling up in her eyes. I feel like we've grown apart, and this could help." I stood up, needing to put some space between us. My head was spinning, but her words were starting to connect some dots. The hidden social media posts, the late nights, the sudden wardrobe change. It all made sense now. She was already acting like she wasn't married. How long had this been going on in her mind? Was there already someone else? "Ryan, please," she said, standing up and reaching for my arm. "We can talk about it. We can set boundaries." "No," I said firmly, pulling away. "I'm not interested in boundaries or whatever else you think this is. I married you because I wanted a life with you. Not with you, and whoever else you decide to bring into our bed. If this is what you want, we're done." Her jaw dropped. "You're seriously ending our marriage over this?" "You ended it the moment you thought this was okay," I said. "Pack your stuff and go." She stared at me like I'd slapped her, but I was done. The woman I married wouldn't have even considered something like this. The person standing in front of me was a stranger. Someone who valued her social media clout and superficial freedom more than the life we built together. That night, she packed a bag and left for her parents' house. For the first time in weeks, things made sense. After that night, I shut the door on my marriage and didn't look back. But I wasn't about to mope. I've always been someone who handles problems head-on, and this was no different. The next morning, Emily blew up my phone. Her voicemails were a mix of sobbing apologies and desperate bargaining. "Ryan, please, let's talk," one message said. "I didn't mean it. I was just overwhelmed and trying to figure things out." Another said, "You're throwing away everything we built. I love you. Can't we fix this?" I deleted them all without listening to the rest. You don't come back from suggesting an open marriage, not with me anyway. My standards aren't negotiable. She had to learn that the hard way. Her texts kept coming, though. At first, they were frantic. "I made a mistake. You're my everything." When I didn't respond, they turned defensive. "You're overreacting," she wrote. "I was just trying to be honest about my feelings. Isn't that what a marriage is supposed to be about?" The audacity. Honesty. She hadn't been honest in months, not with me or herself. One text said, "After everything I've sacrificed for you, you're really going to throw it all away?" Sacrificed. That one made me laugh out loud. I'd been the one sponsoring her influencer career, paying for her classes, her gear, her endless wardrobe. If anyone sacrificed, it was me. I vented to Mike about it over drinks. He didn't hold back. "She's delusional," he said, shaking his head. "You gave her a life most people can only dream about, and she wants, what, to screw around and call it freedom?" "Exactly," I said. "I'm not playing that game." A few days later, Rachel, one of Emily's closest friends, called me. "Ryan, I know it's none of my business, but Emily's really hurting. She misses you." "She should have thought about that before she tried to rewrite the rules of our marriage," I said bluntly. "I'm done, Rachel. Tell her to move on." Rachel sighed. "She knows she screwed up. She keeps saying she just wants to talk to you, to fix things." "Too little, too late," I said. She made her bed. A few weeks went by and the messages slowed. Emily's Instagram, though? That was a different story. She started posting nonstop, all these glossy photos of her new journey. Empowerment quotes, spa days, and luxury retreats filled her feed. It was all so fake. I wasn't even looking for it, but a coworker showed me one of her posts during lunch. "Isn't this your ex?" she asked, holding up her phone. The caption read, "Sometimes you have to lose everything to find yourself. New beginnings." I rolled my eyes. "Yeah, that's her," I said. "Guess she's thriving." But the big news came from Mike, who called me a few nights later. "You're not going to believe this," he said, barely able to contain his laughter. "I ran into one of Emily's influencer buddies at the gym. Apparently, she's been bragging about some guy named Marcus, calling him her mentor." "Marcus?" I asked, raising an eyebrow. "Yeah, some big shot entrepreneur," Mike said. "Her friend said Emily's been leaning on him a lot lately. Sounds fishy to me." That name rang a bell. Later, I connected the dots. Marcus was the guy I'd seen commenting on her posts, always throwing in flirty compliments. From what Mike shared, Marcus didn't even know Emily was married. He thought she was just another influencer trying to make it big. The picture was clear. She'd lined up her escape plan long before she sat me down for that conversation about an open marriage. Strangely, I didn't feel angry. I felt validated. She hadn't wanted an open marriage because she was overwhelmed or searching for meaning. She'd wanted one because she already had one foot out the door, and now it was clear she hadn't even been honest with the man she'd lined up to replace me. Emily tried to reach out again a week later. Her desperation was palpable. "Ryan, I made a huge mistake," her voicemail said. "Marcus isn't what I thought he was. None of this is what I thought it was. Can we please just talk?" Her calls kept coming, voicemails piling up with pleas about how she wanted to come back, how she didn't realize what she had until it was gone. She even sent a handwritten letter, something she'd never done before, telling me how she felt like she'd ruined the best thing in her life. What I found hilarious, though, was Emily's sudden change of tone. She started blowing up my phone again, but this time it wasn't just about us. "Ryan, I really need to talk to you about the sponsorship for the retreat," she said in one voicemail. "It's so important for my career. Please don't cancel it." The retreat, a big influencer event she had been planning for months. It was a project I had bankrolled from the start. Venue, catering, promotions, everything. Pulling the plug would hit her hard. And after everything, I couldn't justify keeping my name attached to it. I called the event organizers the same day and withdrew all funding. When Emily found out, she spiraled. Suddenly, her pleas weren't about the marriage or her feelings. They were all about saving face. "Ryan, you can't do this to me," she screamed in one voicemail. "This retreat is everything I've worked for. Do you know how this will make me look? It became painfully obvious she wasn't sorry for what she'd done. She was just sorry it was costing her. As for Marcus, I found out through Rachel that Emily hadn't broken things off with him. She was still stringing him along while pretending to regret her choices. Typical. She was trying to have it both ways, and now she was watching it all fall apart. I felt like I had the upper hand. The life we'd built might be over, but Emily was realizing that I was the one who had built it. Without me, her perfect little influencer world was crumbling, and there wasn't a filter in the world that could fix it. I wasn't about to let Emily's betrayal end with me being the only one in the dark. Marcus deserved to know the truth, and I was going to make sure he heard it straight from me. After some digging, I found his contact information through mutual connections on LinkedIn. I sent him a simple, professional-sounding message. Hi, Marcus. I'm Ryan, Emily's husband. I believe there are some things you should know. Can we meet? To my surprise, Marcus responded quickly. We set up a meeting at a coffee shop downtown. When I walked in, I spotted him immediately. Tall, sharp-dressed, with an air of confidence that screamed, success. He looked up from his laptop, clearly puzzled when he saw me. Ryan? He asked, standing to shake my hand. That's me, I said, sitting across from him. Thanks for agreeing to meet. He looked wary but curious. So, what's this about? I leaned in, lowering my voice. Marcus, I'm not sure if you're aware, but Emily and I have been married for 6 years. His eyes widened. Married? She told me she was single. I figured as much, I said, pulling out my phone and scrolling to a wedding photo. I placed it on the table. That's us 2 years ago at a friend's wedding. She's been hiding our marriage from her followers, and apparently from you too. Marcus's face turned pale as he studied the photo. I had no idea. She always made it seem like she was focused on her career, too busy for a serious relationship. I nodded. That's part of her brand. But the truth is, I've been the one funding her influencer career from day one. Cameras, events, outfits, you name it, I paid for it. And now she's trying to rewrite her life story to erase me. Marcus leaned back, clearly shaken. Why are you telling me this? Because she's using you, I said bluntly. And I thought you deserved to know. But more than that, I have a plan. And I think you'll want to be part of it. A plan? He asked, his eyebrows raising. I laid it out for him. Together, we could expose Emily's lies to her followers. With Marcus's inside knowledge and my receipts of everything I'd done for her career, we had all the ammunition we needed. Think about it, I said. She's built her entire image on transparency and authenticity. The moment people find out she's been lying about her personal life, her credibility is gone. Marcus stared at me for a moment, then nodded slowly. All right, I'm in. But on one condition. I want nothing to do with her after this. Deal, I said, shaking his hand. Let's make this count. The conversation with Marcus didn't just give me relief. It felt like the first real step in taking revenge. Here was someone else who had been dragged into Emily's web of lies. And now we had a common goal, to expose the truth. I left the coffee shop that day feeling lighter, with a renewed sense of purpose. I kept thinking about how Emily had built her entire career and life on this fake image of perfection. People adored her, looked up to her as some kind of role model. The thought of shattering that illusion felt huge and satisfying. This wasn't just going to hurt her, it was going to completely dismantle her life. The next day, Marcus and I started outlining our approach. We decided to meet again, this time at his place. When I arrived, he'd already started pulling together some of the messages Emily had sent him. Check this out, he said, sliding his laptop across the table. I leaned over and read through a series of flirty texts. She'd called him her mentor and gushed about how much she appreciated his support. It made me sick to my stomach. The messages weren't explicit, but they were manipulative. She'd clearly been stringing him along, playing the part of the ambitious single influencer who just needed a little guidance. This is gold, I said, scrolling through the screenshots. But we'll need more if we're going to make this stick. I've got more, Marcus said, pulling up another folder on his computer. This one was full of photos from events they'd attended together. She'd always posed strategically, making sure to crop out her ring or avoid any shots that might suggest she wasn't single. Unbelievable, I muttered. She's been doing this for months, hasn't she? Marcus nodded. At least. Honestly, I feel like an idiot for not seeing it sooner. You're not an idiot, I said. She's good at this. It's what she does. But now, we're going to turn the tables. We spent hours that day organizing everything. I pulled up my own files. Financial records, old photos, even emails from when I'd first helped her get started. The deeper we dug, the clearer it became that Emily had been planning this for a long time. She'd started phasing me out of her life well before she brought up the idea of an open marriage. It wasn't about exploration or freedom. It was about crafting a narrative that didn't include me. By the end of the day, we had a mountain of evidence. Marcus leaned back in his chair, looking exhausted but satisfied. All right, he said. What's the next move? We sit on this for now, I said. I want to make sure we do this right. No rushed decisions. Marcus nodded. Agreed. This has to be airtight. Emily thought she was untouchable. And honestly, it was hilarious. The arrogance, the overconfidence. It oozed out of everything she did. She wasn't smart. She was just so full of herself that she assumed everyone else was too dumb to notice her schemes. She thought she'd outsmarted me, outmaneuvered Marcus, and built herself this unshakable empire. But the truth? She was as subtle as a brick to the face. Over the next week, Marcus and I went to work. It wasn't just about collecting evidence. It was about connecting the dots, building the full picture of just how reckless Emily really was. Marcus started with the digital side. Screenshots of DMs, texts, and every painfully obvious move she'd made to hide her marriage from her followers. I took on the financials, receipts, invoices, bank transfers, all the proof of how much I'd poured into her influencer career. The more we uncovered, the more pathetic her whole charade became. Look at this, Marcus said one night, pulling up a text Emily had sent him. In it, she called him her rock and thanked him for always being there. She's ridiculous, I said, shaking my head. She said the exact same thing to me a month before she brought up the open marriage crap. It's like she's copy-pasting. She thinks it's working, Marcus said, rolling his eyes. She's probably sitting somewhere right now, patting herself on the back for being such a genius. The thing was, Emily didn't even bother covering her tracks properly. Her lies were sloppy, her manipulations obvious. She wasn't careful. She just assumed no one would call her out. Like at events, where she'd crop her wedding ring out of photos but leave little details that anyone paying attention could spot. Or the way she'd flirt with Marcus in texts while asking me for money in the same breath. She wasn't smart. She was lazy. By midweek, we had a shared folder titled The Real Emily. It was packed with files, event photos, incriminating texts, and financial records that laid bare how much of her career was built on my dime. Each file was like another nail in her coffin. Marcus and I couldn't help but laugh at how easily the pieces came together. She's going to lose it when this drops, Marcus said, scrolling through the folder. She'll probably try to spin it, though. Let her, I said. She can't spin her way out of this. It's too much. The plan was simple. We'd start with the texts, let people see how fake she was. Then we'd follow up with the financials, showing how she'd used me as her personal ATM. The photos would come last, the final proof that her whole image was a lie. Emily thought she was untouchable. She was about to find out just how wrong she was. By Friday, everything was ready. We timed it perfectly. Emily had a live Q&A scheduled for that weekend, the kind of event where she pretended to be real with her followers. It was the perfect moment to drop the bomb. She's going to squirm, Marcus said with a grin. Good, I said. Let's see how honest she really is. Emily thought she'd won. She was about to find out she'd been playing herself the whole time. When Saturday rolled around, Marcus and I were ready to drop the hammer. Emily had hyped up her Q&A for days, posting story after story about how excited she was to connect with her followers. Real talk, real transparency, she'd written in one post, paired with a glowing selfie. The audacity of it was almost laughable. Marcus and I had timed everything perfectly. 30 minutes before her live session started, Marcus uploaded the first wave of our evidence. It was subtle at first. Screenshots of text between him and Emily, showing her flirtatious comments and manipulative behavior. We didn't even include captions. The screenshots spoke for themselves. Within minutes, the post started gaining traction. Comments flooded in, people tagging Emily and asking, "Is this real?" And "What's going on here?" Marcus and I watched it all unfold from our separate screens, messaging each other updates like kids on Christmas morning. "She's going to lose it," Marcus texted. "Good," I replied. "She deserves every second of this." As the live Q&A started, Emily seemed oblivious to the storm brewing. She appeared on camera with her usual polished look, greeting her fans with a big smile. "Hey guys, I'm so excited to chat with you today. Let's keep it real, as always." The irony was delicious. At first, the comments on her live were the usual fluff, people asking about her skincare routine or praising her outfit. But slowly, questions about Marcus's post began popping up. "Emily, is it true you've been lying about your relationship?" one person asked. Another chimed in, "What's this about you hiding your marriage?" Emily's smile faltered, but she kept going. "Okay, let's focus on the positive today, guys. This is a safe space, no drama," she said, laughing nervously. Marcus wasn't done. 10 minutes into her live, he posted the second wave. Photos of him and Emily at events, her ring strategically missing from every shot. He captioned it, "The lengths some people will go to for their authentic image. The real Emily." The hashtag took off immediately. By the time Emily noticed, her live was flooded with people spamming number the real Emily and demanding answers. She started fumbling, trying to regain control. "All right, let's take a little break and reset," she said, her voice shaking. The live abruptly ended. Marcus and I were dying of laughter. "She didn't even last 15 minutes, Marcus texted. "Classic Emily," I replied. "All show, no substance." But we weren't done yet. While Emily scrambled to figure out her next move, I uploaded the final piece of evidence: the financial records. Screenshots of bank transfers, receipts for her camera equipment, invoices for the events I'd paid for, all labeled with a simple caption: "Every empire has a foundation." This was hers. The real Emily. The internet exploded. Within hours, the real Emily was trending, and Emily's carefully curated image was in shambles. Brands she'd worked with started quietly unfollowing her, and her fans were turning against her in droves. I'd expected Emily to call me, but she didn't. Instead, I got a message from Rachel, one of her closest friends. "Ryan, I don't know what's going on, but Emily's having a meltdown. She's saying you and Marcus are trying to ruin her life." "She ruined it herself," I replied. "We just held up the mirror." The silence from Emily lasted until the next morning, when I finally got a call from her. Her voice was unsteady, somewhere between rage and desperation. "Ryan, what the hell have you done?" she snapped. "Expose the truth," I said calmly. "Something you should have done a long time ago. You've destroyed everything. My career, my reputation. Why would you do this to me?" "Because you destroyed our marriage," I replied. "You lied to me, to Marcus, to everyone. Did you really think you could keep it up forever?" "I can fix this," she said quickly. "Just take it down, and I'll make it right." "No," I interrupted. "This isn't something you can fix. You wanted an empire built on lies. Now you can deal with the collapse." Emily's sobs on the other end of the line didn't faze me. For the first time in months, I felt free. By the end of the weekend, Emily had gone silent on social media. Her accounts were still up, but the comments were disabled, and her last post was from days before. The moment the divorce papers were filed, it was like cutting the last thread that tethered me to Emily's chaos. I'd given her enough chances to come clean, to be a decent person, and she'd squandered every single one of them. It wasn't just about the lies anymore. It was about reclaiming my life, my peace, and my dignity. Emily's reaction was as predictable as ever. The second she was served, my phone started blowing up. At first, the texts were angry. "You can't be serious. You're really going to throw everything away over this? This is a mistake, Ryan. You're being petty and vindictive." Then, when I didn't respond, the tone shifted. "I miss you. I don't know how I let things get this bad. Please, let's talk. You're my husband. We can fix this. I'll do whatever it takes." It was classic Emily, full of empty promises and manipulative pleas. But this time, I wasn't biting. I'd heard it all before, and I wasn't about to fall for it again. The divorce process was quick, thanks to the airtight evidence Marcus and I had gathered. And thanks in the first place to the prenup I suggested signing before we got married. Emily didn't even try to fight it, probably because she knew she didn't stand a chance. One of the best moments came when my lawyer informed me that Emily had agreed to the terms without contest. She'd get nothing. No alimony, no division of assets, nothing. Her influencer empire, such as it was, had crumbled to dust, and she was left scrambling to pick up the pieces. Rachel called me a few days after the papers were finalized. "Ryan, she's a mess," she said. "She's been calling everyone, trying to figure out how to fix her image. She even mentioned reaching out to you again." "Not my problem," I said. She made her bed. And that was the truth. Emily had spent years building her brand on lies, using people like disposable tools to climb her way to the top. Now, with no brand, no husband, and no backup plan, she was finally facing the consequences. A few weeks after the divorce, I ran into her at a coffee shop. She looked different. The polished, camera-ready facade was gone, replaced by someone who looked genuinely lost. She spotted me and hesitated, then walked over. "Ryan," she said softly, "can we talk?" "There's nothing to talk about, Emily," I said, keeping my tone neutral. "Please," she said, her voice breaking. I just want to say I'm sorry. For everything. I don't know what I was thinking." I looked at her for a long moment, then nodded. "I hope you figure things out," I said. Then I turned and walked away. That was the last time I saw her. As far as I know, Emily's still trying to rebuild her life, but that's her journey, not mine. As for me, I've moved on. I'm focusing on my career, my friends, and myself for the first time in years. The weight of Emily's lies is gone, and I'm finally free. Sometimes people ask if I regret it, exposing her, divorcing her, walking away. The answer is always the same, not for a second. Emily thought she could rewrite our story, but in the end, I took back the pen.